The death has been announced of Anne Ziegler. And older listeners will remember Anne Ziegler and Webster Booth, or Webster Booth and Anne Ziegler. Do you know, their two names were, it was just like Marks and Spencer, Flanagan and Allen and Anne Ziegler and Webster Booth. Beautiful duetters. In the 50s, when the musical scenes changed, they just felt that the world had passed them by. They left Britain in 1956 and went off to South Africa. But I was very saddened to learn of her death, and I'm very grateful to the lady who wrote to me and informed me, because I had no idea. She was born in 1910. So she'd been around a long time, but she was a wonderful lady with a wonderful voice and chatted to us on this program as well. Was the beautiful voice of Anne Ziegler. And on the line now, the lady herself. Hello.
Hello.
Ah, lovely. We found you at last.
Yes.
Where are you living now, Anne?
I'm in Penrhyn Bay in North Wales.
I was going to say, don't give the real address, though, the whole address yet, though. You'll have a queue of fans waiting at the door.
I've gone ex-directory, phone directory, so I have a bit of peace.
Right, now, I understand you were actually born in Liverpool.
I was. And the family have been there for, about 120 years.
Now, that's an exotic name, Anne Ziegler. Where did you get that name from?
My father's cousins were Zieglers. They had a big farm on the Wirral. And my real name was Irene Eastwood. And when I got the chance to go into a musical in London, when I'd been, I'd had lessons for 3 or 4 years, my singing master very wisely said, now look, Irene Eastwood, in those days, there's no glamour. You must find something, because so many of the poor wretched souls were coming in from the continent, and Mr. Hitler was making himself felt, and the foreign names were coming in. My families weren't Jewish, but it was a German name.
Yeah.
And I thought, I went through the Liverpool phone book in desperation to find a name, and I came across the Zieglers, which are my father's first cousins.
Wow.
And I thought, well, Irene Ziegler doesn't ring true, and I've always loved the name of Anne, so I thought Anne Ziegler, A-Z, and that's how it became.
Now, that's a really romantic way of finding a name, isn't it?
Yes, it's unusual.
That's right. It's like when I joined the BBC, the manager says, you'll never get well known with a name like Frank Wappat. So what are we going to call you? I says, look, I was born that way and I'm staying.
And you're going to stay.
Yeah.
And you're very sensible because it's so unusual.
I suppose once heard, never forgotten, eh?
Exactly. That's very true.
I'm told that you made your West End debut in the chorus of an operetta called By Appointment. Is that right?
That's right, with Maggie Tate, who nobody will remember today, but in my day she was a marvellous soprano.
She was, and her niece married Cavan O'Connor, the Irish tenor.
Oh, now that I didn't know.
Yes, Cavan O'Connor was very, very, very proud of the fact that his wife was a niece of Dame Maggie Tate.
Oh, how lovely. And I used to sing with Cavan O'Connor.
Really?
On the radio with Geraldo in the late 30s.
Good heavens. What was it like broadcasting in those days, Anne?
Well, a bit primitive in comparison to today. Well, in a way it was primitive, but I think that I would find today primitive, because in those days it was very simple.
And the wages, I suppose, were primitive.
Oh, they were criminal. Utterly. That's why I've got no money, because the money that we were in the money in the late 30s and 40s and early 50s, but it doesn't mean a damn thing today.
No. How did they pay you in those days?
How?
Yeah, did you have to remind them, or were you...
Oh, no. If we did a production, say we did the life story, for example, it wouldn't be that, but take him as an example, the life story of Ivan Novello. It would be on what was the name of the program? There were two. There was the light program and the...
Home service. And
the home service.
Yeah.
And we did it on the 2 nights. And the home service first, and then the light program. And after the second show, Stuart Hibbard, the main presenter and broadcaster of the news and this and that and the other, would arrive in dinner jacket and hand me my check when I'd finished singing. Can you believe it in today's world?
It's incredible, because he was the senior announcer.
Yeah. Charming man, too.
Yes.
But dinner jacket, we were in, Webster was in dinner jacket and I was in a long dress.
Ah.
And for the productions at the BBC, there was an invited audience, of course.
And they'd be very select and selected.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Very special.
Now, looking at some notes about your singing career, it says that you got your biggest chance to date as in playing the role of Marguerite in the film Faust.
That's right, yes.
And there were over 200 applicants. That was ambitious for an English film company, don't you think?
It was, but I've found out since that it was very much an experimental one, because it was in colour.
Yes.
And it was the first bit of colour that they'd seen in Britain. And it was a potted version. It wasn't the full opera.
No.
But that is how Webster and I met, because he was Faust and I was Marguerite.
Good heavens, had you met before that?
No.
And yeah.
I'd only been in London 6 months, and I got the, I think it was an audition that I went to, and they couldn't find a young English soprano, blue-eyed, fair-haired, to play the part, and they wanted it from the colour angle.
Yes.
And, of course, to sing reasonably well.
Of course. And, of course, with Webster, your husband, he was quite an imposing figure. Was he really over 6 feet tall?
He was 6'1".
6'1".
Yeah, and then, of course, he started to have emphysema, through smoking.
Oh, dear.
And it started to sort of go down to 6 foot, and then down to 5'11". It's so silly. I'm so anti-smoking.
How did he feel about your views on smoking then?
Well, it's caused a bit of trouble, because if we were doing a show, or if we were recording, which we did for God knows how many years with EMI, he would, before the red light went on, he would be smoking a cigarette. And I'd say, for God's sake, put that thing down. But it was a prop to him. Mm-hmm. He was a bag of nerves, and he felt he couldn't do it without his cigarette. Yeah. And how many millions of people are like that today?
Lots and lots of them. Now, and you were married in 1938, and a lot of husband and wife partnerships are usually stormy. One pits their wits against the other. Was your relationship with Webster stormy at times?
At times, but I'll tell you this, Frank, it was never over work. It was over domestic problems.
Yes.
Trouble, we hadn't got a staff. You see, we always had a staff at the house because we couldn't do it. And we had a big house in North Finchley to begin with. And, of course, Webster had a son from a former marriage.
Oh, right.
And I had him at the age of 13, which is a very difficult age.
Very difficult age, yes.
And that sort of thing created problems, but never, never, ever through our work together.
Right, that's excellent, because work does come first. Did you have any family yourselves?
No. I didn't want any. I wanted my career, and I've never been one for children. I'm a dog woman.
Yes, well, they're much more obedient.
Yes, and very faithful.
Yes.
And I've just lost my little Yorkie after 15 years.
Oh, sorry to hear that, because they are sometimes more part of a family than the family are.
Yes.
Yes.
It is absolutely true, and she was my lifeline.
Mm-hmm.
When Webster went.
You enjoyed many years as a very successful recording duo for EMI.
Yes.
When you see them recording these days, it's like being light years away from the reality of the 30s. What was it really like in the EMI studio? It was the biggest in the world.
Well, it was just one microphone, and we shared it.
Oh, never.
And no earphones. We didn't know what the hell they were. And, of course, we faced the conductor, not like they do today in another room.
Right.
And all the aeroplane fitments that go with the sound recording. It was just one man with a wax circular thing that our voices went on to. I forget they had a name for it.
Yeah, the waxes. They would call them waxes.
Yes, but they had a name for that, an affectionate name for it.
Right. Was the orchestra actually there in the same studio?
Oh, Lord, yes.
So how could you hear yourself singing?
Well, I don't know. We just did. There weren't massive orchestras, you know. I mean, I suppose 25 to 30 has been the biggest we ever had in the studio.
Right. Even so, by today's standards, where it's all done on one keyboard and computerized and then synthesized, that's quite a big orchestra. Now, Webster passed over quite a number of years ago now, but how did his voice fare through the years?
He was, until he stopped singing. We sang together for the last time in, wait a minute, he died in 1984. And we sang in, not Whitby,
Harrogate?
Pardon?
Harrogate? Yeah. One of those seaside resorts,
Yes, on the East Coast. It'll come to me in a minute. And about a year. And, of course, he was losing his memory.
Really?
Yeah. But he was still able to sing.
He had a beautiful, fine English voice.
Yes.
There are very few great English singers, and far too many tenors, as I've found, sound like baritones trying to be tenors.
Yes, you're dead right.
Yeah.
And don't they struggle?
Don't they just, yeah, and their vibrato gets wider and wider.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
But he had a marvellous voice, and I'm just hoping that we can look forward to some reissues of the works he did in oratorio and cantata.
Yes, I wish they would put some out. But, you know, the only trouble is that these days everything is done that much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed Richard Baker put occasionally one of Webster's old records on, and they felt slow listening. To me, they did.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think times change. You know what I'm trying to say?
I do, yes, because I've just been dabbling with one of Webster's records from Mendelssohn's Elijah.
Yeah.
Ye people rend your heart.
Oh, lovely.
Isn't that a gorgeous piece?
Gorgeous.
And if with all your heart you truly seek me.
Yeah. Did it not feel slow to you?
No, it's, you see, what I do when I'm looking at old records or transcribing them, I find the key that they were written in wherever possible.
Yeah.
And then I'll match that up. And sometimes those 78s are running slow. and sometimes fast, although it says speed 78.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you get the correct pitch. But I thought Webster took that, for example, at exactly the right speed. It shouldn't be hurried.
Oh, well, then now I may be maligning him, because a lot of those records, it could have happened, and that's what I've heard on the radio.
Yes, that could well have happened.